let us know who you're rooting for in chat and on social media. And let's just jump into things. I think it's going to be very exciting. Can Yuri pull off the incredible losers bracket run, or will Alex manage to finally pull it off with the Whimsicott and Lapras lead once again? So going back to his basics.
Yeah. Ooh, going back to basics, but there is a Rillaboom and Cinderace here for Yuri. So it kind of feels like both of them are going back to square one of their team composition and what has worked out for them in the past.
Yeah, definitely. I think this time around, with the knowledge that Rillaboom is actually faster than Lapras, one play that you could go for, which is exactly what Yuri's indicating, is maxing the Rillaboom to do as much damage onto the Lapras. What we've seen Alex do in this position previously is just go for something like a Tailwind Resonance into the Rillaboom. Of course, Rillaboom faints if it doesn't Dynamax, but should it Dynamax, it'll be able to do so much damage with the Max Overgrowth. And what was the problem for Yuri last time in this situation was that he wasn't able to get much damage off against Lapras at all. But Rillaboom is actually one of, if not the best answer to dealing damage with Lapras, because it's you get the same type of attack bonus, you have the grassy terrain as well. So I love the decision on Yuri's end to go for the Dynamax this time around. Cinderace, of course, can get some big damage off too. And if Alex anticipates the Dynamax, for example, he could go for something like a Tailwind and Geyser, just get rid of the Cinderace so that doesn't do any damage. But I think by not getting up the screens, you take so much more damage from that Rillaboom. So, the classic Tailwind Resonance is probably still a safe play there.
Okay, so maybe some safe plays coming out from both players. We'll have to see whether or not Alex decides to go for that safe play. But we know what Yuri is going to do, which is going to be doubling into this Lapras. The question that we need answered is whether or not this Whimsicott decides to go for a Tailwind to make this Lapras super fast, which it does, and whether or not this Lapras has decided to target down the Cinderace or the Rillaboom. G-Max Resonance comes out here, so likely targeting down that Rillaboom, but in its Dynamax form, it's going to be able to survive, and this is the double coming off here into Alex's Lapras.
Yeah, so gets the Aurora Veil up, which will be a big deal in at least surviving these attacks. Let's see if High Jump connects. If a miss here would be absolutely huge, but it looks like it's able to connect. Oh, that's so much damage!
It does so much damage.
That's that's a non-max move. I mean, Max Overgrowth here might just be able to pick up the KO, and if so, that would be a huge turn one for Yuri's, and let's see, it is!
Wow. Oh my gosh, so Alex's Lapras only able to get off one move this turn in this game, and now Alex has no Dynamax to use for the rest of this game.
Yeah, and of course, Lapras was the most important Pokemon for Alex the last time he went up against this mode, but now just really excellent play once again from Yuri on that first turn. High Jump Kick doing so much damage. Of course, it does even more damage than a Max Knuckle would do. So I love that play from Yuri's end. There's not much Alex could have gotten to do to get around that, as Incineroar comes out, but now Alex has Incineroar and Whimsicott out. Neither of these Pokemon put on any offensive pressure whatsoever. So I think Yuri is in a really commanding position. That was just a fantastic play by him on turn one, and I think Alex maybe getting a little too comfortable from the last time these leads came out, where he was able to just knock out Rillaboom. This time, Max Rillaboom comes out, and Cinderace, even in normal form, does so much damage with that Life Orb and Libero.
Yeah, I mean, that's just so. I mean, imagine if another High Jump Kick comes out and connects onto the Incineroar, right? That's going to be massive amounts of damage, but we're still waiting to see what Yuri is going to do. Really thinking through this turn, because it's not over yet. Even though Yuri got a big win by knocking out Alex's Gigantamax Lapras, you still have to prepare yourself for the end game, where it might be something like a Conkeldurr in the back or a Dracovish in the back. So Moonblast, taking that really nicely, is going to be the Togekiss that switches in.
Oh,
and
it
I was wondering whether or not a Flare Blitz would KO, and it doesn't.
Yeah, that's a huge survival there. Alex had the option to double up. Of course, the Moonblast into Rillaboom, into the Cinderace would have picked up the knockout, because Cinderace at that point was fighting type from the High Jump Kick, but huge survival there on the Rillaboom. Gets, not that much damage off, but a speed drop can always be important. And more importantly, it just sticks on the field for one more turn, meaning that Yuri essentially buys another turn of Tailwind here from Alex's end. So really clutch survival there. Yuri's Pokemon have really hung on with just a little bit of health in this game. So this next turn, there's still Tailwind up, but and Flare Blitz does a fair amount of damage. I think Yuri at this point just kind of wants to stall out Tailwind and just knock out Whimsicott before it gets another Tailwind up. So as you see, Yuri's kind of going on the offense here, trying to just play as aggressively as possible. And Whimsicott and Incineroar, at this point, they're relegated to clicking Moonblast and Flare Blitz. That does a fair amount of damage, but the problem here for Alex is that he can't knock out both Pokemon this turn, unless he gets maybe a key critical hit.
Well, that's not going to be a critical hit from the Moonblast, and Incineroar actually decides to use the Flare Blitz again too, and Togekiss survives. Wow. Still going to be able to get off an attack here, which is going to be the Heat Wave onto both Incineroar and Whimsicott. That's a lot of damage onto the Whimsicott, and really kind of setting up for this next move coming in from Rillaboom, which is going to be that Max Flutterby that we saw Yuri select.
Yeah, so Alex's Whimsicott sticking around for a lot longer than you normally expect, but I think Yuri is still comfortable with this trade, right? He's not taking much damage in return. The Togekiss was able to hang on from that double up. Really impressive bulk here on Rillaboom and the Togekiss this time around. And more importantly for Yuri, what he's going for right now is basically to stall out the Tailwind on Alex's end. He knows he still has that Cinderace in the back, so as soon as Whimsicott goes down, with, I believe, one more turn of Tailwind up, yep, that's exactly the case. You knock it out this turn if it doesn't protect, and then you'll just be able to outspeed with the Cinderace in the back. But I think Alex has made the correct play in just consistently going for these attacks. There's pretty much no reason to go for anything other than Moonblast and Flare Blitz, but by not doubling up onto Rillaboom, it cost him a little bit, and now both Pokemon out on the field for one more turn.
Really safe play from Yuri too, especially because of recognizing that Alex was doubling into that Togekiss. So going for the Protect and a parting shot onto the Rillaboom. So we're going to see both Pokemon on either side of the field kind of take a little bit of a step back here and rotate through. Alex is going to have to reveal his fourth and final Pokemon from the parting shot, and it is Conkeldurr in the back.
Yeah, Conkeldurr is a big deal because it's not that Choice Scarf Dracovish, which maybe could have, done a lot of damage here as the U-turn comes out. Does survive, though, which means Alex should be able to get another Tailwind up. So, yeah, despite the really, really poor turn one, I think Alex is still definitely in this, but you see Yuri's last Pokemon is the Primarina, which I think makes this so tricky because the Primarina just does so much damage, and there's two Fairy types right now to go up against. So this next turn, of course, I think you could actually just go straight for something like a Moonblast onto the Togekiss and then Thunder Punch into the Primarina. One way you could get around that from Yuri's end is just going for Protects, but yeah, it looks like he's content to just go for damage here at this point because he knows, okay, if Whimsicott commits the Tailwind, then it won't be able to go for an attack, which means Conkeldurr can only knock out one of my two Pokemon. And if you don't commit the Tailwind, then I knock your Whimsicott out, and I just outspeed the Conkeldurr very comfortably with the Rillaboom and the Cinderace in the back.
We saw the Thunder Punch come out from Alex's Conkeldurr last game, so I mean, I kind of expect that something on Yuri's side of the field is going to go down here to a potential Conkeldurr Thunder Punch, but I wonder whether or not the Whimsicott is going to help out here. It actually does help out trying to do some damage with the Moonblast, and that's going to be a knockout onto the Togekiss. So no Tailwind here from Alex's side of the field yet, as Thunder Punch does come out into Primarina, but Primarina hangs on.
That's 3 clutch survivals from Yuri's team. First the Rillaboom, then the Togekiss, then the Primarina, all coming so close, but each of them surviving in this game.
Yeah, and the fact that Whimsicott gets knocked out here means that there is no Tailwind for the latter part of this game. Alex is stuck with Incineroar and Conkeldurr. That's all that's left. And the Aurora Veil is gone.
Yep, the Aurora Veil is gone, which is absolutely critical. So right now, Cinderace and has a very good attack, a super effective attack against both the Conkeldurr and the Incineroar. So I think Yuri bringing in the Rillaboom makes a lot of sense here. You don't want to get intimidated because at this point the win condition is kind of sweeping with the Cinderace. So now you get the Primarina next to the Rillaboom. So Rillaboom here can opt to go for a Fake Out. We know it's fast, so of course it can even Fake Out the Incineroar before it moves. What this might come down to is actually whether the Cinderace is able to connect its attacks against the Conkeldurr. For example, if it wants to go for a Bounce to get that one-hit KO, Bounce can miss. If you miss the Bounce, Conkeldurr can get a Thunder Punch in return. So I think like Alex definitely bringing the right Pokemon in this matchup and recovering from what was pretty much a disastrous turn one, but Yuri still has the Pokemon advantage. He has the faster Fake Out right now. So yeah, it's going to be very close, but Cinderace is the main Pokemon I'm looking at because it's such an optimal matchup against both the Conkeldurr and the Incineroar.
So I really like the Rillaboom start here for Yuri just because it does eat the Intimidate from the Incineroar, and then you're free to use this U-turn to just switch out into the Incineroar for free. So really great heads-up play by Yuri to kind of set that up and bring us into the end game of this game one of the final set here. Primarina going for the protect, just doesn't want to get knocked out here to a Thunder Punch. And it's a fake out too, actually, coming in from the Incineroar. Oh, but Mach Punch here from Conkeldurr is going to be fast enough to knock out the Rillaboom.
All right, so this is kind of what it comes down to. Can the Cinderace actually hit its attacks? If it misses, it might just be enough for Alex to clutch this one out. So Cinderace, doesn't have entirely accurate attacks. That high jump kick is not 100% accurate. Neither is the bounce. So, I think if Yuri is able to connect with the attacks, he most likely win this, for example. The other question is, first, do you commit the high jump kick into the Incineroar, or do you just go for something like a Giga Impact / bounce into the Conkeldurr? Of course, if you bounce, you have to commit 2 turns to it. I'm not sure if Giga Impact can pick up the one-hit KO onto the Conkeldurr, and I think like Yuri recognizing, okay, Primarina is gonna feint to a Thunder Punch anyway. Like Conkeldurr always has to target the Primarina, so he's going for that double protect to maybe have a chance to survive. Because if you survive, then if you get the protect off, you essentially win the game off that, because then it's a 2v1. And does it get it? It gets it!
It gets it!
Huge double protect there.
Primarina gonna get a huge, absolutely huge double protect as Cinderace goes for the high jump kick. Does it connect though? That's the big question. It does. Incineroar gets knocked out to it.
Let's see if Alex maybe predicted the double protect and target Cinderace, but I think you almost always have to Thunder Punch, and there's the Thunder Punch into the Primarina. Wow. I think, from Yuri's end, there's pretty much no reason not to go for that double protect, because the Cinderace on your end is probably going to survive an attack from the Conkeldurr anyway. So this endgame was still in Yuri's favor anyway. He just needed to hit his attacks, but of course, hitting a high jump kick and hitting a bounce, the odds are still in Yuri's favor, but it's not exactly like, 100%, right? So I think Yuri just making the best probability play, and at this point, because the Primarina hangs on, he doesn't even need to opt for a bounce or a Giga Impact and go for that Pyro Ball, and Pyro Ball does connect here.
Pyro Ball does so much damage too.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's absolutely insane how much damage it does, and even though a Thunder Punch is going to connect onto the Primarina, Cinderace is still going to be faster, so setting up really well for the knockout onto Conkeldurr.
Yeah, and I don't think there's really much around at this point. I'm thinking how you can really get out of this from Alex's end. I mean, even if Yuri ends up missing, I don't think you'd have to crit a Dream Punch probably. So Pyro Ball's gonna come out, and it is gonna be able to connect.
Good plays all around. Again, another close game between Yuri and Alex, but Yuri once again taking another game off of Alex and bringing us to a match point here in the grand finals of the Players' Cup Invitational. This is incredible how close these games really have been. And even though there have been some slight advantages gained from the leads that are coming in from both of these players, I feel like this is the high-level play that we expected. Having the ability to maneuver around those beginning moves and just turn 0 to bring us into such a close set.
Yeah, absolutely. So going into this last game, this is match point for Yuri. If he wins this, he will be crowned the Players' Cup Invitational Champion. He's come from an insane losers bracket run after beating 3 incredible players back to back to back to back. He lost to Alex earlier on in the winners bracket, and here he is now winning 3 games in a row against him. But like you said, Rosemary, it's still anyone's set, right? Like, Alex, I think, has learned a lot of information, especially from that last game. Now he knows, okay, I really have to respect the double up play. So if Yuri goes with the same lead again, I think, you might expect Alex to just go for a switch out. I think Alex, if he wants to win the set, basically has to get more turns out from the Lapras in both this game and I believe the last game of that last set. The Lapras just went down after a turn, right? So if I think Alex gets 3 max moves off with it, he's often in such an advantageous position. The only question is, how does he manage to actually pull that off? And I think it once again starts with the leads. He might have to lead something differently. For example, if he thinks Cinderace and Rillaboom are coming back out, maybe go with the slower Dust Box mode once again.
I absolutely agree with that, because I don't know how really prepared Yuri is for kind of a back end Gigantamax from Lapras in the late game. We've seen time and time again Alex continue to go for these hyper offensive plays of Gigantamaxing the Lapras first, making sure that either Tailwind was up or you set up Trick Room so that the Lapras is going first and dishing out damage. But every single time I've seen that, Yuri has had a phenomenal response to that turn 1 play from Alex. So I do wonder whether or not Alex would find more success with the Lapras if it was preserved for the back. Just kind of like how a lot of teams have trouble dealing with a back-end Trick Room.
Yeah, absolutely. What's so interesting is that both players can kind of use the slow trick room mode. Here we go. Alex sticking with Whimsicott and Lapras again. So let's see. It's worked out for him in a lot of the games, but that last one showed a pretty big hole in it, and it's actually going to be Togekiss and Dusclops. So Yuri switching it up once again, going back to what was working with him for him in that first game of that first set of the winners finals, or grand finals, I should say.
Well, this is really interesting because Yuri gets a chance to just kind of follow me in Trick Room, and Whimsicott doesn't really have a choice except to not go for Tailwind here. Otherwise, it puts Alex in a really disadvantageous position.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen how this has played out previously, right? You just go for the Resonance. What's great about the Sleet for Yuri is that he basically negates the Whimsicott with a Follow Me. The Whimsicott doesn't do anything, can't go for that taunt, and so Yuri might just be content with his strategy earlier, which was set up Trick Room, let Lapras, eat up a turn of Max and get the Primarina for free, and then start maxing with the Primarina. So I think if Alex wants to play differently this time around, he might consider a taunt onto the Dusclops. Maybe the -2 max resonance is actually a KO onto the Dusclops, but yeah, we're just seeing this play out exactly like how we've seen it last time we had these exact same leads.
Yeah, taunt coming out, so fortunately the Follow Me is going to redirect that away from the Dusclops, so Dusclops able to set up the Trick Room, and this feels very familiar to what we saw in Game 1 of both of these players going at it in the winners finals, where, yeah, Togekiss does its job, gets the Follow Me and redirects away those attacks, and does get the knockout, but Dusclops most importantly sets up that Trick Room.
Yeah, so I mean, this is pretty much a repeat turn, and Yuri having the same Pokemon as that mode he went with last time, so Primarina is out now. So this time around, I think, one big problem for Alex that last time was this specific turn, right? He went for the Fake Tears Resonance into the Dusclops, didn't pick up the KO, so maybe this time around you could go for the Fake Tears Max Lightning onto the Primarina, just get more damage off of that slot. You can also opt for a taunt onto the Dusclops to prevent it from going for those Pain Splits, but I think Alex cannot go for the same play that he went for last time. If he does, then maybe he's assuming that he can pick up the KO onto Dusclops, and he's hoping for just a better damage roll this time around. But once again, the Primarina Dynamaxes, so who does Whimsicott target here? Let's see. Ooh, it's Fake Tears, but it's on the Primarina this time.
Yeah, so this is going to be a difference in strategy coming out from Alex, as there's no taunt from Whimsicott, just going to be the Fake Tears onto the Primarina, and Max Starfall onto this Whimsicott after all of that damage coming in from Nightshade is going to be enough to pick up the knockout. But the big question is, what did Lapras target and what move did it decide to use? Is it also going to be enough with the Fake Tears to get the knockout as this Max Lightning comes through? Ooh, it's not enough.
So much damage, but not enough. That being said, I think Alex is definitely in a better position this time around than he was the last time we saw this turn play out. So Alex did exactly what he needed to, which was not go for the Fake Tears onto Dusclops, because last time by damaging Dusclops, Alex actually hurt himself because it meant that the Dusclops could just keep going for Pain Split. So it's a big turn there on Alex's end. However, Conkeldurr comes out, and a Nightshade Starfall might still be enough to pick up the KO onto Conkeldurr. What is interesting this time around is how does Yuri deal with the Lapras? Lapras is able to put on a lot of offensive pressure, and this time around hasn't taken any damage. You also don't have those Nightshades, so I think from Alex's end, he basically needs to keep pushing the tempo. What makes this tough is, you really want to just go for Max Lightning onto Lapras, because if you go for something like a Geyser onto the Dusclops can just Pain Split it off, but Conkeldurr switches out, so kind of trying to bait a double up, and it's actually Dracovish as the last Pokemon this time around.
Well, we saw that Yuri decided to go for the Max Guard. I think this is a really smart play from Yuri, just because Alex's win condition right now is kind of getting through this Primarina because of this Dracovish that is in the back and the Conkeldurr as well. So that also stalls out the last turn of Gigantamax, which is why I feel like that Max Guard was super effective.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dracovish now is pretty much the last Pokemon you want under Trick Room. As you see, Yuri wants to go for that Starfall. Dracovish, we know, carries that Choice Scarf, so it's a guaranteed Max Starfall onto that Dracovish, which I think should be a KO. If you double up onto that slot with the Nightshade, which Yuri is indicating, then you either knock out Dracovish or Conkeldurr, which is actually, I think, such a favorable trade, especially because this time around, Alex doesn't have that Incineroar. So a late game Rillaboom actually puts in so much work against everything that Alex has. So from Alex's end, I think, it's really tough, but you might have to sacrifice the Dracovish here because Conkeldurr is more important to beating that Rillaboom. It's actually Will-O-Wisp coming out, which covers, both physical type attackers.
It does, and I really appreciate that play from Yuri, especially because Will-O-Wisp is a little less common than what we've seen in the past from Dusclops. It's usually kind of like a haze or something like that, but you don't even need the Will-O-Wisp. It was just covering your bases in case there was a switch in, because the max Starfall is going to be enough to knock out this Dracovish.
Yeah, and you know, that's the tricky thing about bringing Dracovish into a Trick Room matchup, right? So Free Throw will come out, should be able to pick up the knockout into Primarina, but now you've got Conkeldurr and Lapras. Lapras doesn't have Protect, so that is one of the main problems, and you know, Roar Veil is also being stalled out now as well, and once it is over, you pretty safely just go for a Wood Hammer to pick up the knockout. What makes this really tough for Alex is that Conkeldurr is his last Pokemon, which can at least deal with the Rillaboom a little bit, but Conkeldurr at best can go for like a Thunder Punch onto the Dusclops, and yeah, because of the Misty terrain, you can't even go for like Paralysis, although Grassy terrain does come back up, so I think Alex's win con is maybe to hope for example, like a crit onto the Rillaboom, because right now, with Trick Room being up, I think you have to commit the Fake Out onto the Lapras. You can't let it get an Ice type attack off, and just hope you don't get crit. If you don't get crit, then the Rillaboom will just be able to Wood Hammer the Lapras cleanly next turn.
Fake Out onto the Lapras. Dusclops going for the Will-O-Wisp.
And
it does connect, so that's Conkeldurr doing so much less damage now. And this Ice Punch coming out is going to connect with Rillaboom, but look at how much this Conkeldurr kind of can't do with that Will-O-Wisp attached to it.
Yeah, more importantly, there's no freeze there as well. I think if Alex gets a freeze there, then he still maybe has a shot, but of course, a lot of Conkeldurrs nowadays opting not to run the Guts and running Iron Fist instead, so Yuri, with that knowledge, goes for the burn onto Conkeldurr, like you mentioned. Allows Rillaboom to stick around for a lot longer. Miss could have been huge there, because then you can go for a Mach Punch. Here's Wood Hammer. That should be enough to pick up the knockout onto Lapras, and it is.
It is enough. Lapras goes down to the Wood Hammer coming out from Yuri's Rillaboom. And yeah, their recoil damage is going to put it into a range here, but it's still not enough. It's actually still not enough. Nightshade comes out onto Conkeldurr, so wow.
The Will-O-Wisp really paying dividends here at the end of the day, and the connect onto Conkeldurr was absolutely huge, because if you miss there, then Ice Punch does so much more damage, and maybe you can put the Rillaboom in Mach Punch KO range. So I mean, Alex, I think, needed a little bit of good fortune to close out this game, and now Conkeldurr just pretty much cannot handle Dusclops, so yeah, like, even if you get a Mach Punch crit onto the Rillaboom, the Dusclops can just stall it out with Nightshade and Pain Split. And Will-O-Wisp is a move that a lot of players used to run on Dusclops, and it kind of fell out of the format for moves like, for example, Imprison